Well, it's 11 o'clock here. We'll get going here in just a minute, everybody. Thanks so much for joining in. I'm just going to give people a few seconds to come into the webinar, so we'll get going here in just a minute. Okay. Well, welcome, everybody. My name is Chris LeClaire. I'm the head of sales here at NFI Solutions. I know that everyone's time is valuable, so we really do appreciate you joining us here today. I'm really excited today to have Brian Maschka here from Revol One joining us. Brian's a veteran of the business, been in the business over 20 years, has experience in the financial services industry, including positions with independent planning, and then as well as a regional vice president for a leading annuity carrier. And now we're lucky to have Brian work with us and serve as the regional vice president at Revol One. Revol One, just quickly here, I wanted to comment, it's a unique carrier, new to the business, offers innovative and groundbreaking solutions. And our goal here over the next 45 minutes will be to provide you all with valuable insights into these products and solutions with the hope of then creating new opportunities for you. Really what these webinars are all about, trying to create energy and ideas and opportunities to help you all grow your business. You know, I think I've been in this business a long time. You know, I think most of us know that unique carriers, unique products and solutions don't always come along that often. So I think when they do, I think it's really important for us to identify that and take advantage of those unique stories. That way we can help more clients and you can grow your business. And with that in mind, I did want to just throw out a bit of a challenge to everybody. Grab a pencil and a pen, and as you're listening through the comments here from Brian and going through some of the concepts here, the products from Revol One, jot down names of clients that you work with that could be interested in these products and it might be a good fit, or prospects who you haven't had a chance to sell anything to and create a relationship with. Maybe they'd be someone that this type of innovative solutions could be that thing that could kind of break through and get you that prospect from a prospect to a client. I definitely believe there's an opportunity here for you all. So I'm just really encouraging you all to take advantage of that. If you do have questions, please feel free to throw them into the chat. We'll be looking at those and do our best to answer those questions. Towards the end of the presentation, we'll take some time to do a Q&A. And obviously, if there's anything we don't get to, we will definitely follow up with those folks directly. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Appreciate the introduction. That's very complimentary of you. I will correct one thing. I believe that it's us that has the privilege of working with NFI and partnering with NFI. So we feel lucky to have you on our team, and thank you for joining the revolution, I guess is what we call it here. You'll kind of notice a theme throughout, as Chris pointed out, that we are going to be kind of different in a good way. We see a lot of opportunities in the marketplaces to kind of revolutionize what's happening with product development, how products look, the story, and the ease of telling the story. So we're excited to get started. We are coming to you here from Urbandale, Iowa. If some of you don't know where Urbandale is, just think of it as Des Moines. Des Moines, Iowa is where all the insurance talent is. And so we've got an office here. If folks have been on this call before, usually you see me doing it from what I call my home office, which is a lovely office down in my basement. We have basements in Des Moines, just in case the tornadoes come through, we all take to the basement or bad storms. But got it decked out real nice there. And if you look over my shoulder or behind me there, we are a real office. We have a nice group of people here in Des Moines, Iowa, that are standing by ready to help you out. So with that, let's go ahead and get started and get moving, because I'm all about getting to the point, right? Not a lot of fluff here. Just kind of, what are we going to do that's different and unique today? Why should you continue to listen in? I think this is the question that I'll pose, which is this: what is it that you're doing out there? How are you looking different, or setting yourself apart from the competition? You know, as I think about it, we all kind of go to the same meetings, we all kind of listen to the same webinars. In the financial industry, we all start to use kind of the same lingo as well. That can be a lot of noise to our clients. Imagine a world where you're simplifying things for them, and you're giving your clients a product that maybe they haven't seen before, and they're not leery of it. They think, you know what? I like that. That's the best of both worlds. So that's really kind of where I want to start. We have some new products that we want to roll out to you today and talk about today, and we'll get to those. But I want to take a step back. We started with Gen 1 products. It was probably 3 months ago. No, excuse me. It's been longer than that now. We probably started about in April. So boy, time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? But those are what we call our Gen 1 products. So we do have MIGAs that you're used to. We do have something called a MIGA, and we had a FIA, just a 6-year FIA. Now we're stepping into this world where we are going to get into the 10-year FIA space, and we are going to offer things like accumulation. We're going to offer bonuses, and we're also going to offer income. Now you say, well, that's not different. We've had that in this industry. If we can design products better and different nowadays, they will look and feel different to you and your clients. And possibly, they might even be simpler. Oh my gosh, imagine a world where you're simplifying things for your clients. So again, as we go through this presentation today, ask yourself, what am I doing differently, at least in the product realm? I know some of us have an office that looks and feels different from the next person. Maybe you're doing different types of planning. I understand all that, but from a product perspective, how are you setting yourself apart from the others? Now, here's the cool thing: because we're partnered with NFI Solutions and a handful of other IMOs, you have that opportunity to set yourself apart. And you can get that through NFI Solutions. So as I continue today, I will continue to point things back to NFI Solutions and their marketers there. You're more than welcome to call me here at Revol One and just see how we pick up the phones and how quickly we do that. And we do have real people here standing by, as they say. So I kind of already gave you a preview, but let's get right down to, I'm going to break it down into really 2 or 3 different hang on just one second. All right, well, so I'm still getting emails. Hopefully that doesn't pop up on the screen. I hope you see ready, set, go, launch products. So like I said, I'm going to break it down into maybe just 2 or 3 different products that are going to set yourself apart and give you a really strong story to tell your clients. The first thing that we rolled out there was the multi-year guarantee. We have a 3, 5, and 7-year options. I won't go over those today. We have 5.70, 5.75, and 5.85 respectively on the 3, 5, and 7-year 7-year options. As you can tell, I was reading there, it's a door opener, right? You and your clients probably have never heard of Revol One. It's a great way to get them started with Revol One Financial. Some people just want to buy MIGAs, and that's okay. What we're seeing right now is that our 7-year 5.85% MIGA compounding interest is pretty much sticking out there. If you all look at Annuity Rate Watch, or you ask NFI Solutions to kind of run you a grid, they have all that information that they can point to and show you who has the highest rates. So that's really a pretty easy type sale, and that should be top of mind when you're thinking who has high rates. Well, Revol One does at 7 years for 5.85. As we move across the screen there, moving to the next box, the Accelera Plus. This is the one that I'm going to get really excited about. As Chris mentioned, I was with a big, well-known FIA carrier that I loved my time there. We spent a lot of time talking about Zero is Your Hero, and income riders is where we spent our time. Great story for your client. I still believe in that. But this gives you the opportunity. It's a unique hybrid product that we're going to cover. And then from there, we're going to cover quickly our new 10-year FIA. We have an accumulation one, and then we just rolled out a bonus. And ironically, I don't even have a slide for it. That does bring me to a point that I wanted to make earlier. There are handouts within the big board, or the webinar here, that I should say, that you have access to. You can download those. So as you're kind of clicking around, you can find those handouts, our website. You pretty much have everything you need in those handouts that we talked about today. Okay, so let's get down to it. And let's talk about unique, innovative products. Here's where your story really starts to get exciting. You can tell your client about this new product that really, quite frankly, the guy down the street can't tell. And it's just because you're with NFI Solutions. The general idea of this is that you get the best of fixed or index credit. Okay, let me slow down and say that again. You get either the fixed or index crediting, whichever is greater. Now, what I like about this is once you start this program, we're not going to change the fixed rate or the participation rate. That rate is set when you start. Okay, so simplified story, easy, setting yourself apart. You can almost sell this on one page, which is one of the pages that I have in the handouts. But I've broken it down right here into, I guess it's the next slide, into really a sales and marketing piece. And I kind of have a funny little story about it too, but we'll get to that. So I mentioned earlier, zero is not the hero, not anymore. Imagine if you could have 4% as your floor. Keep something in mind here. If you're selling FIAs, if your client got a zero, the solution when you called me was, hey, Brian, that really didn't work out. That index didn't pay off this last year. What would you suggest I go into? And my answer was always the same. I said, well, we need to diversify, and you need to be across many of these different indexes. Rarely will you have one that is always the winner. So if your client is really worried about getting a zero, let's put some into the fixed rate. And typically that answer was fine. But then you kind of felt like, well, maybe I'm deluding myself on the indexing side. And that may be true, but at least your client wasn't getting zero. The big point here, and the thing that you need to jot down, is 100% of your money goes to work. Okay, so you can assure your client that 100% of your money is both in the fixed and in the indexing. Let's take a look. So, as I mentioned, I should probably cover the initial premiums here. The initial premiums are $25,000 for qualified contracts and $50,000 for non-qualified contracts. It's pretty simple here. You can see over on the left-hand side, you're going to either pick your guarantee of 3, 5, or 7 years. And then you will have both the fixed interest rate and the guaranteed participation rate. So the one that I like to pick on always is the 5-year. The 5-year is nice. Seems like a nice round number. It has a 4% fixed rate with a 70% guaranteed participation rate. I've got some visuals here that really help this hit it home. On the 7-year, you have 4% and 80% participation rate. Keep this in mind. Once you start this program, we don't change those participation rates or those fixed rates from year to year. Okay, so let's take a look at how this works visually with your clients. We have a funny saying around here, we can and we will. So you see our mascot up in the upper right-hand corner there? That is Will. And Will is head of strategic development, or he has a title, but he's part of the pack here. And so we have our cheetah as our mascot. And we want to be fast, agile, and nimble. That's what sets us apart. Once you submit business to us, you'll be really surprised as to how quickly and how fast, number one, you can get contracted, and number two, how quickly business is processed. So let's talk about will for a second, right? I said can and will. What do we know that will happen? That's the question. What will happen? Well, we know if we pick the 5-year Accelera Plus MyGEA, we know that we will get 4% each and every year. So if we went back to 1/1 of 2019, your $100,000 the next year turns into $104,000. The year after that is 108 or 108,160. And you can see there the end result after 5 years of 1/1 of 2024 was 121,665. That's great. That is a worst case scenario. We know that will happen. However, what else can happen with this? Well, remember the S&P part of it, right? On a 5-year, we have a 70% participation rate. So that means when we start on 1/1 of 2019, you have a starting point on the S&P. 5 years later, you look to see what has that S&P done. You will receive 70% of that. And so this visual here depicts that on 1/1 of 2019, we started at 2,507 on the S&P, and at the end there, we ended up at 4,770. So as you do the math on that, your account would be credited 163,190. So this can happen, right? Can and will. We know that 4% will happen. It can do this. Now, funny story. I literally drew this idea right here with the greater of 163 or 121,000. It didn't look as nice as this, but I sat at the kitchen table and drew this with my 18-year-old, 16-year-old, my 13-year-old. They had some colored pencils, and I said, guys, I want to promote an idea here to you, and I want to see if you can follow along. And so I did this can and will, this 2 different paths that you can go, and at the end, you get the greater of. And they said, okay, Dad. So I drew it out, and I drew this picture, and at the end of it, I said, you can get 163,190, or we know you will get 121,665. Now, which one of those is greater? And they said, well, Dad, 163,190 is more than 121,000. I said, okay, that means at the end of that 5-year term, you're going to get 163,190 credited to your account, not the 121. So it's the greater of. And remember, we had no zeros along the way. They really liked this idea. And in fact, at Revol One, we liked it so much that we turned it into a marketing piece. So that is one of your handouts that you have here. We don't have the ability to illustrate this, not at this point in time. So we thought it would be a good idea just to use that 1-pager and explain this story. Okay, so again, this is 41,525%, or excuse me, not percent, dollars, higher than the guaranteed fixed accumulation value. Okay, keeping in mind, This is not allocation. Your dollars go to work right away. You might jump up and say, well, yeah, now, wait a minute, Brian, I know that there's some other products out there too that are similar to this. You're correct. They're similar, but they are not this. I think some of the other ones, you will find they're not as simple. There's either allocation involved or there's a trigger involved. This is simply the picture I just drew for you. Okay? Now you say, well, but how often would that happen? So quickly here, I want to go through this chart here that gets a little busy, but I want you to imagine if you would have gone into a MYGA type product, okay, multi-year guaranteed annuity type product, and if you told me that, well, Brian, the rate on that is 5.5, and I'd say that's a great rate, 5 years. Over that 5-year period, you would have received $30,696. Okay, so imagine each one of these little dotted lines going across the screen there is the end of a 5-year period. Now let me say that again. It's the end of a 5-year period. So what would you have been credited the entire time? This is important. We're not going year to year to year. You would have been credited $30,696. You say, but Brian, there's higher rates out there than 5.5. I'd agree with you and say, okay, what do you got? Somebody will pop their hand up and they'll say, how about a 6% rate? I said, okay, 6% rate over this time frame here that I have listed, 1/1 of 2014 all the way up to 1/1 of 2024. That's a 10-year period. At the end of those 5-year periods, you would have been credited $33,822. That's very nice. On $100,000, you'd be $133,822. But if I had a MyGia or the Accelera Plus, what could I have expected? And the answer is here in these blue dots. Imagine the blue dots being the end of, again, still the end of a 5-year period. So we issued a policy every month for a 5-year period, and the blue dots were what you would have been credited. This is the can part. I think this screen shows a lot of opportunity that you can pick up. Now, ironically, the black arrow, the big black arrow there that's pointing to that one lonely dot down at the bottom there, by the way, we didn't cover up any of the other blue dots, that would what you have been received if you would have hit the 4%. Remember, the greater of either 4% or the S&P at participation rate. This one happens to say 75% participation rate, but 70% is very close to this as well. We just haven't updated these numbers yet. But look at the opportunity, the crediting that you could have offered your client with a 4% floor. Like, that is so powerful. And if you can tell that to your clients, again, there's where you're putting the wedge between you and the other financial planners out there. You're telling them you can have 4%, you will get 4%, and you can have 70% of the S&P. So I think it's a very powerful message. Compliance says hello. This is all the bullet points on what we just talked about. Now, if I back up, before I move to FIAs, 2 lines of thought here, and this is the way I want you to think. Is this for the client that's a MYGA buyer? Possibly. I've talked to many people in the field that say, you know, it could be a good alternative for a person that is looking for a fixed rate. I think what you might run into is a person that says, Brian, I just want my guaranteed minimum, or I just want my guaranteed rate. Please do not talk to me about anything to do with the S&P. And so the MyGia may fall down at that point in time because they're just looking for that fixed rate. So that's what you need to offer them. And that's why we have the MIGA, 7 years, 5.85. That's fine. Give them that. However, if you have somebody that's possibly been in a fixed indexed annuity, has experienced some zeros, and maybe they're just not really crazy about getting zeros and they want a better way, you have a way to show them. You can say you have 4% in a worst case scenario, and you can have, in a 5-year product, you can have 70% of the S&P, or with a 7-year product, you can have 80% of the S&P. That's going to get their attention, and they're going to say, tell me more about that. I didn't know that that existed. And you have the opportunity through NFI Solutions to help people understand that this is a hybrid product that you have access to that, quite frankly, the guy down the street doesn't. Okay, so that's very, very exciting. So that's story number one that I kind of want to give you today to be able to set yourself apart. Okay, so now we're going to pivot here, and we're going to kind of go to part two of this webinar. I am aware of the time. It's 11:26. I think we'll move quickly through this. There's not as much to cover on this. And again, if you have questions, I direct you back to NFI Solutions to ask those questions. We're not going to cover absolutely everything, but what I want to do is give you those unique points that you can say, you know what, that's different. I can go out and talk about that and be different than somebody else. So, and Chris, if you need to jump in at this point, that'd be a good time. If not, we can keep moving.
Yeah, Brian, I was just going to do that. I think before you move on, there were a couple of questions. I think you kind of covered them, but I think just for clarity's sake, there's a couple of questions kind of around, well, so is with the 4%, and then the 60, 70, 80% participation rate, is this annual point to point, and is there a cap? I think you kind of covered it, but maybe if you want to add any clarity around that.
Yep, I appreciate you giving me that opportunity to do that again, because in the beginning, I struggled with this. I grew up with annual point to point. The last 15 years I spent with the other carrier, remember, Chris? And so I was always used to everything changing each and every year, and annual point to point is a little bit different, right? So this is not necessarily annual point to point. I will tell you what you get annually. You will receive 4% each and every year for 5 years, compounding interest. On the S&P part, with the participation rate, I want to clarify that you get that at the end of the time. We figure out what the S&P did, and then you're credited that participation rate. So if you're in the 5-year, which is the example we've been using, you would have been credited 70%. Now, if it's not as high as 4% compounding, you get the 4%. So I hope that's clear, a little better.
Yeah, and then just to add too, I just think for those on the call here, it is a unique product, but I think what's so cool about it is sometimes when in our business, when we get unique, we can get complicated, right? And I think this is one of the powerful points about the MIGA here is that it's different. Again, for those folks that have been in a fixed index annuity and had zero, they're going to be interested in this story. But it's also real, I think, straightforward and easy to understand. So I think if you have clients who, I think we all have clients who gravitate towards, or maybe I should even say it differently, that clients that are afraid of products that can be complex, right? The complexity alone can kind of scare clients off. And I think if you think through, do you have clients in your book right now that kind of fit that description? This might be a great product to bring to them, because again, the one of the kind of beauty of it all is that it is a really straightforward, simple concept.
I like that, Chris. I like the way that you've said that. I'd put a challenge out there to look at the handouts, download that one handout that I have. It's the 5-year MIGA. And I just challenge everybody to show that to your next customer, or get some feedback on what do you think about this, and use that one page, because that one page keeps it clean, simple, and easy. A lot of people have asked us, can we illustrate it? And we don't have the opportunity to do that. We are strongly considering that, though. I will tell you that we may have a tool for it just to help. But use that one pager because, as Chris points out, my goodness, this business gets so complicated. And imagine just selling from one piece of paper. You like this idea for part of your money? Let's do it for 3 years. Let's do it for 5. So use the one pager. Keep it clean and simple. How's that? Do we have any other questions or concerns, Chris, or any color that you can give from the field of how to position this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we're covering. I mean, I'd love to, I don't want to take up too much time on this, but again, I think it's straightforward, it's unique, it's different. Again, in my opening comments, I just think it's so rare that we have a chance to bring something different to clients. So I think I'd really encourage people to jump on it.
Good, thank you. So let's do the second half here. Again, with the focus of what's different about this. I think it's very busy and there's a lot of noise out there on the 3 specific bullet points here of FIAs, and here it is right here: accumulation, a bonus, and guaranteed lifetime income. So everybody, I want you to stick with me here. We're not going to go through all of these. I think in general, that's kind of what the landscape looks like right now. You're either going to accumulate or you're going to give people lifetime income. Accumulate, take withdrawals. Maybe somebody's talking about the 4% rule, which is under question anyway, on whether that gets you through retirement. Bonuses are nice to have, but what's the cost to the bonus? They don't give away money for free. And then, guaranteed lifetime income, which is a great idea. This is how I grew up, right? We're giving guarantees to people that they won't outlive their retirement funds. Now, I will tell you this third one we can check off right now because this one's not even ready to go yet. I'm giving you a preview that's getting ready right now. Actually, it's very close. But right now we're going to focus just on this idea of accumulation and the bonus. And the biggest thing that jumps off the page right here is the best entry feature. This is where it kind of takes the worry and fear that you talked about earlier, Chris, about getting in and doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. What are some examples that I can use? Well, how about buying that stock, right? I'm not promoting that you buy or sell stock. I don't care. But have you ever done it at the wrong time? You either did it at the height of the market and then sold it when it was down. I think that's exactly opposite of what we should be doing. Did you buy the house at the wrong time when rates were wrong? Should have waited. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Could you imagine having an opportunity to go back in time and say, geez, my timing really wasn't the best. Could I have done better? And with this best entry feature, I think it really gives you that opportunity. Now, you're unique when you talk about this with your customers because there's not other FIAs out there that have that. You have it. So let's get through it here. Best entry feature, only one in the industry over here on the right. You can see that. I'm just kind of highlighting there. It's available at no additional fee. A lot of times we start adding benefits to these annuities, and you can be assured that right now we're of the attitude that we don't need a fee on this. Could we add it someday? Yeah, I think so. But right now, it's at no additional cost. Now, there is an enhanced participation rate. That is 100% of the S&P once you hit 10%. So anything over 10%, you get 100% of the S&P. Next question should be, well, what happens, Brian, under 10%? The answer is you get 25% of that. This, if you will, is our home run. So if you've got people that are used to monthly point-to-point, this might be a good solution. But I'm not going to focus on that today. Let's talk about positioning yourself and being different than everybody else out there. Remember the examples that I said, oh, I wish I could go back in time, and maybe I did this at the wrong point in time. Um, I think this gives that opportunity. And really, if we think about it, I don't know, I haven't checked today, but the S&P, I think relatively speaking, is fairly high right now. It's 5,000 and something, right? I don't know how high it is right now. I didn't look this morning. So you may have clients that say, I really like what you're saying, but is now really the best time to get into something like this annuity and lock in at the height of the S&P? And so what this best entry feature offers you is a 60-day window. So from the time that you start not the application, as from the time that you get issued, you have 60 days. There is a 60-day window that looks and watches the S&P. And if the S&P drops by 10% in that 60-day window, that triggers an event. And that event is, let's have an opportunity to reset that S&P starting value and go forward from there. I mean, how cool is that? Now, it happens automatically. Guess what? You don't have to pick up the phone and try to time the market or do anything like that and say, oh, we got to lock it in. No, it happens automatically. So no worries about that, but it does take away the worry for the consumer that we're doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. So let me get to it here. I'm sure you guys have probably already studied the numbers here, but in this example, we started at 4,119 on the S&P. Okay. In that 60-day window, it got as low as 3,693. Okay, now you can see that as of the close on that day, it got down to 3,693, and then it actually even went a little further, and then it came back up. It's important to understand that first time that it hits that low point, it triggers this on that day. Okay? Nothing to do, nothing to call in, no worries. That new starting point now would be 3,693. Well, geez, how is that a benefit to me? Well, as the consumer, if the S&P does what it's supposed to be doing, and in that next year, it does decide to go up and to the right, as you see here, we end at 4,589. That really gives you an opportunity to make more money in that. If we would have done it by the standard indexing, which would be 4,119 over here, up to 4,589, that would have given you 5.71%. Oh, that's great. That's fine. But because the market did dip in that first 60 days and it went down by 10%, remember, going down by 10% is the trigger. That actually gave you, on a 50% participation rate, understand you got to pick your index that you're in, right? You would have received 12.13% as your return. That's quite a difference, because we would have started at the 3,693 down here and gone up to the 4,589. You're unique, you're different by saying, I've got a solution for not doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. The next, this visual just shows the difference in dollar amount, 105,710 versus 112,130. I think we can deduct that with the previous slide that I just gave you. Okay, here's all the different choices you can go into. Here's what I want to say about this. You have a 5% fixed rate. That is a very strong rate. Okay, now keeping in mind that's on our 6-year and our 10-year accumulation type products. This is where we're talking about accumulation. And then the biggest thing that I can point out right here is S&P 500, S&P 500, S&P 500. I probably can't say it enough times. These are indexes that are the gold. This is an index that's the gold standard. Everybody knows this index. It's something that you can easily find, easily track. And then what I like to point out is we do have a 12% cap. That is a very, very strong cap. I think Chris could probably back me up and say, hey, that that is a high cap. So this is for the person that's really understands fixed indexed annuities. They want to try to get it the most that they can out of their market-like returns, but they're not willing to lose any money. And so that story is still here, where you're not going to lose any money due to market corrections. And in fact, if it does correct on you in the first 60 days, you will get to reset that starting point. So right there, what I just said pretty much sums up this annuity sale for you to your clients. By the way, we're back to annual point to point on this. So I do need to kind of make a differentiation there between the MyGIA and this FIA. Okay, so this would be annual point to point on this product. Okay, we have a 10-year FIA. The one thing that I will not cover on this webinar is the high compensation that you receive. I guess that's relative. Call Chris, call his group. They can get you all squared away on what this looks like. Okay. I think at this point in time, yep, I need to switch my screen here. So this might be a good time to, Chris, is there any questions or any comments that you can give on this?
One just came through that just to kind of another clarifying one. Are these caps fixed or for the full surrender charge schedule?
So these caps, that high 12% cap that I was just talking about, or even the 5% fixed, that will be reset year to year. Okay. So on an annual point to point basis. Anything else we need to clean up as I go?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, so this is probably the last point that I'll make. Hopefully on the screen, Chris, here you can help me out. It looks okay to me, but this is our bonus product. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah.
Cool. And again, with the cheetah, we're feeling like we're kind of different, agile, nimble, and this is a bonus product that we just rolled out. It's so new that I don't even have slides, but I did include this in the handouts, I believe. So quickly, it's a no-fee premium bonus. It gives you a 16% bonus. Okay, the bonus fully vests after 10 years, so we have a vesting schedule on that. So two things to understand on this: you have a surrender charge if you leave, and you also have a vesting schedule that we're not just going to give that bonus to you. You have to vest and stay till the end of the term. The neat thing is the death benefit does include the accumulation value, the vested bonus accumulation value, and any positive MVAs. Just know that the MVA is not going to hurt you, or surrender charges aren't going to kick in if your loving one dies or passes away. So again, we're still sticking with the S&P, and we have that EPAR kind of home run option, if you will, as far as putting your money into those indexes. This 16% bonus should help jumpstart those clients' growth and should really position you nicely. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up here because I want to leave time for questions and really more than anything, comments, Chris, positioning, questions that you have, things that we discussed in the background.
Yeah, well, I think one thing I think would be great to touch on and just explore a little bit more is just, kind of how you approach replacement products and suitability, especially as it speaks to the bonus product.
Oh my gosh, that is a great point. This is what helps your business right here. So you see a 16-year or a 16% bonus, right? And you think, wait a minute, I've got a couple of clients. They would love a 16% bonus. A nice fixed rate, a higher cap. Let me see if I can replace that old product that they're in and move it over to Revol One. That's natural to think that way. And so with the suitability that we have, first off, you will do e-application. And as you go through that e-application, I think it's surprising to agents how quickly, Chris, the suitability happens. I think that's my timer to either end or Chris is going to kick me off here. Um, so,
Oh, we got a few minutes. I think. Yeah. Look,
okay.
and I got one more thing I wanted to touch on too. So yeah, just finish that thought
Okay.
for sure.
Yep. So let's talk about suitability. What's suitability look like? It's going to happen quickly when you do that e-application. And the suitability uh, is pretty much this on the replacement. I can give you 3 points that you kind of want to write down or jot down. It's not the end all be all because let's face it, we need to test based on liquidity. Our suitability test is, do you have enough other liquid funds that you can get into something with a surrender charge and a vesting schedule that you're not going to go in there and need this money in 6 months or a year? And so that's really the first test is, do you have enough liquidity? Okay, fine. The next test would be, does the bonus cover the surrender charges at the other company? Because mind you, this fixed indexed annuity world that we got into, we want to make sure that our clients aren't losing money. And so if they move from one company to another company, we don't want to put them in the position of losing money. So that's key is, does the bonus cover the surrender charges? And really do the hard numbers and show us and prove us or prove to the client even that these numbers do work out. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is looking at the fixed rates, because the fixed rates, again, that will happen, right? From year to year, we know the fixed rate will happen. And right now, I would suggest to you, because of the fixed rate environment that we're in, the volatility that we're in, the yields that we're getting on our portfolio, you have a real opportunity to show a very strong fixed rate. So let's compare our fixed rate, along with the bonus, to the previous product. What does their fixed rate look like? Is it lower? I would probably guess if this piece of business was before the year 2022, I would guess that the fixed rate is probably lower. Okay, so you have an opportunity there. Why does this client need to move from over here to over here? First, we need bonus to cover the surrender charges. Second, we need a fixed rate that is stronger. And then you probably want to go to the cap and look at the caps, possibly participation rates. But see, that's the part that can happen. We don't know if that's going to happen. But if we have a higher cap rate, then it might make some sense with those three things in mind to go ahead and replace the business. Long-winded answer, but I think that's very helpful in your day-to-day business when you're looking at people's portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key takeaway is, I think you probably, everyone has clients that have, I think there's a good chance you have clients that have a product that was put in place, 3-4 years ago, like Brian said, before 2022. I think it's definitely worth the discussion, and bring it to us here at NFI. We can, partner with Revol One to figure out does it make sense, and it definitely, there'll be plenty of times I think it will, and we'd love to, I think that's a great way to bring value to your clients and grow your business at the same time.
Yeah, good. Other questions, other points that you were going to make? I know we're running up against time.
I think this was great. I think it was awesome, Brian. I think we touched on the two different products really, and I guess the third, kind of the sneak peek is great as well on the bonus. But maybe just to kind of, if I could, Brian, I'll sum up and just say, I think there, as I said, Brian and I both touched on throughout the call, there's some really unique components and aspects to what Revol One's trying to do with the different products, whether it's the Magia or the fixed index annuity, the leveraging the bonus, there's a bunch that we can do to help you. Please call us here at NFI and we can talk through, how to position these products and give you ideas about, how to, again, leveraging the new story, the different story. I can't stress enough. I think we all know how powerful that can be, because a lot of these stories can get, if you're from a client's perspective, a lot of these stories can kind of get blurred together and kind of, hard to distinguish one from the other. And I think, Revol One's done a great job of giving us some unique stories that we can really feel good about in terms of bringing to our client, in terms of, again, helping your clients, giving them solutions that will help them get to where they want to go, but also, of course, for you, grow your business. So please, any questions for us? 952-887-1239. Again, it's up on the screen there, 952-887-1239. Please reach out to us. We'd happily dive in and help in any way we can. I want to thank Brian. Thank you so much for the time. We've got another series of this coming up in August. We'll be sending that out to everybody. Please join us for more with Revol One. And Brian, anything you want to add in closing?
Chris, this has been great. I appreciate your guys' partnership. Thank you for including us. Just kind of one last plug here at the end is Revol One is agile, fast, nimble. And the reason for that is we don't have a lot of backlog of business, back book. Excuse me. We're starting fresh with these annuities and the technology. We don't have like this technology that's been hanging around and that we're trying to patch together. We have brand new, fresh technology that I think your agents are going to benefit from. And remember, we covered a lot of products today, and so I think the overall message here is do something unique and different from the guy down the street. And it's not all or none. You can split things up. You can use the MyGia. You can use the bonus product. You can use the income product once we have it. So be thinking about creating buckets and different strategies for your clients. I think they'll appreciate it. So thank you guys again today. We really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Have a good day.